is Dr. Jeff Barrett. And Jeff, if you want to go ahead and start getting your screen ready, sharing your slides. Dr. Barrett is Senior Vice President of Critical Path Institute and serves as Executive Director of the Rare Disease Cures Accelerator data analytics platform. He works to grow CPAth's portfolio and drug development solutions with a focus, but not limited to model-informed drug development, real-world data technology. Jeff's previously been in positions at the Bill and Melinda Gates Medical Research Institute, Sanofi Pharmaceuticals, and University of Pennsylvania. So he's another person who's worn a lot of hats in recent years. So Jeff, we look forward to hearing about you and CPath.
Thanks, Sarah. Are you seeing my slides okay?
I am seeing like the regular PowerPoint view, not the presentation view.
All right, let me see if I can make it easier for everyone to see this.
Now you need to swap screens and then we should be good. Under display settings. To the right one there. We're seeing their presenter view.
Yeah, I'm clicking on it, just hanging up on me a little bit.
Okay. We believe you. The peanut gallery will provide more and more guidance to you.
I appreciate that. I'm never trying to wait guidance.
Sometimes if you unshare and then reshare it, is more happy. I don't know why.
Let's try that. Just doesn't want to cooperate.
Yeah, it's cranky now.
I think you guys used up all the good juju earlier in the day.
Yeah. Let me see if I take over screen share.
I think we can see the slides anyway.
Well, I think they won't advance.
Let me try.
Is this your slide, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm able to advance, at least on my screen, but I don't know if you can see it advance.
Well, I took it away from you. Now try sharing your screen again. We'll do this one more time. We'll
right.
See if it
How are we making out here? Are we seeing any progress?
We are, we're still seeing the presenter view, but we can see your slide just fine. So as long as there's nothing embarrassing in your notes, I think we're good to go.
No, all good. All right, so I'll begin. I'm delighted to present here today and give you a little bit of a background about the Critical Path Institute, and more specifically, explain to you why I don't play in traffic anymore. But anyway, the Critical Path Institute really goes back to 2005. So this is my Genesis slide. In the beginning, God created CPath, or rather Janet Woodcock and Ray Woolsey did. And for the past 17 years now, we've been creating this interface between industry, regulatory authorities, and academic investigators. So CPath tries to serve as a neutral convener in this space and really build a bridge to different stakeholder environments and really address a lot of niche areas where there's a lacking of either drug development tools or specific regulatory approaches or methodologies that would be useful. So this is not done in a vacuum. It's done in partnership with both regulatory authorities, industry, and academia. And I think a big part of what we try to do is to build towards solutions. So that can be any number of things, which I'll get into in a little bit, but it's really geared towards having impact. And a big part of the ability to do this is really partnerships with regulatory authorities. So this slide gives you just an org chart and shows you where we have a presence in terms of divisions within the FDA where there's a specific CPATH engagement and involvement. So it's a unique relationship where we try to partner very strongly and really address some of the gaps. That initial Critical Path Institute document highlighted a lot of issues that were tied to poor attrition rates. Again, it's a little bit dated, but it still holds up today. So things such as sharing data, doing more quantitative analysis, and developing tools to facilitate improvements in decision-making were all part of this document. The legacy has really continued for us in terms of being able to develop candid partnerships, but also to develop research agenda in each one of the niche areas. Again, this slide just kind of highlights some of the core competencies within CPATH. So obviously as a nonprofit, we don't have unlimited resources, but we really focus them in these niche areas. A big strength is on the Data Collaboration Center, the development of biomarkers consortiums, developing context of use agreements, and that could be either for biomarkers or drug development tools, regulatory strategies. So the 140 employees thereabouts are really spread amongst all of these areas. And the bedrock, as you see at the very bottom, is the ability to be a neutral convener. This allows people to come in, make proposals with regards to the sharing of data, but also we have an obligation to ensure that concerns around sharing are adhered to. I'll get into this when we talk about the platform more candidly, particularly around the rare disease consortium. Now, in terms of the impact on regulatory sciences, this has evolved into 17 global pre-competitive public-private partnerships. That's a lot of alliteration, with participation from industry, academia, advocacy groups, and regulators. So I think it's something that is an evolving process within the Critical Path Institute, but I want to direct you to a couple points. The clinical data standards and development in the bottom right is an area that is important to the industry and anyone who's trying to share data. I think, again, going back to the early 90s when I was still in the industry, this was a place where a lot of the industry struggled, and the CDIS standards really ruled the roost in terms of a core data standard and model that evolved. This, again, was reliant on people providing data to people who are eventually responsible for providing the data to regulatory authorities. Because of that, the governance and sharing, even within companies, was not really broadly delivered. So I think you still had this issue of pairwise governance and people sharing data via email. A lot of unfortunate practices became cemented. And even things when SharePoint came available, it just became a dumping ground for documents. But we've learned some things over time, and what I will show you in a little bit later is that now we're in a situation where the technology has really evolved and that we can adhere to very complex heuristics so that some of the dialogue that occurred earlier around the complexities of data sharing, the timing around data sharing, the elements of data sharing can really be adhered to. The technology has really evolved for us to do this in an efficient manner so that when the data is able to be shared, it can be shared efficiently and readily. Coincident with the data is, of course, the construction of quantitative tools that would really de-risk decision-making. So another core competency is in our quantitative medicine group that really works, again, with regulatory authorities and industry sponsors, as well as academics, to provide tools to de-risk decision-making. Now, if I look back on the timeline here, this kind of shows you how some of the consortiums have evolved over time. So everything from tuberculosis in the global health setting, Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, Huntington's. Not surprisingly, a lot of this is focused in the neuroscience area that is a big collaborator from the standpoint of both regulatory, academic, as well as industry partnerships. But it's very diverse, and also in places where you might think that the industry would have significant resources already. But a lot of the special sauce for CPATH is to get people to work together in a pre-competitive space. And when there is competitive dialogue, we tend to avoid this, and we don't weigh in and give guidance on any specific product. We really adhere to the focus of being a neutral convener. But we'll still discuss things such as relevant study designs, tools that would facilitate more efficient clinical trials, as well as promote things such as improved endpoints and dialogue around more efficient clinical trial designs. So this really highlights how these consortiums have grown and evolved over time and continue to expand. Now, in terms of our footprint, it's represented by 80 different pharmaceutical companies, 34 nonprofit research foundations, 11 government agencies. So it's clearly not only dictated by the FDA. We work with EMA, PMDA, really global regulatory authorities to facilitate a lot of this emphasis. 20 different academic institutions comprising 1,600 scientists are part of the extended ecosystem. We have more recently made a broader investment in Europe. We have a footprint in both the Dublin office and our data sciences group, as well as a new Amsterdam office, recognizing that we need a presence over there. A lot of this has materialized into specific efforts, particularly in the global health setting, but it is now moving into other areas such as neurodegeneration, Alzheimer's disease, as well as rare diseases. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the biomarkers because others have covered this more broadly, but it is something that we invest in quite a bit. And a lot of the CPATH effort is to do a lot of the documentation as well as the development of regulatory documents and guidance in conjunction with what FDA is requesting. So this is really a benefit to industry in terms of doing a lot of the dirty work that takes time and takes effort. So we relieve some of the pressure in that regards, but also facilitating academic partners to invest in more of the basic science. Coincident with the work on biomarkers is the development of specific tools. Now, this could be everything from a disease progression model, clinical trial simulation tool. Again, these are not done in a vacuum. They are done in partnership with academic experts in the field, as well as industry partnerships. The best thing we do is really to facilitate the dialogue and to make sure that the data that's relevant to the particular tool of interest is really surfaced and shared in a meaningful way, but it has weigh-in and buy-in from all the relevant stakeholders. So, and what the future holds is really to be able to affix the tools to the data, because as the data evolves over time, we would like to be in a place where the tools are matter-of-factly updated. So this can be something that is done in a more efficient manner. So we don't have to revisit creating the tool from scratch as new data becomes available. One of the other projects that I have, I'm working closely with FDA to develop a curriculum for model-informed drug development that really focuses on people who are not necessarily experts in the field. We were fortunate that FDA wanted us to help develop this curriculum. This is done in partnership with a lot of CROs, so Satara, Metrum, partners from Astellas. Many different pharmaceutical companies have dedicated and provided examples of the approach so that it becomes a living environment. A lot of the didactic materials captured in our learning management system. This was recently launched at the WCOP meeting in March of this year, and FDA will begin in earnest doing beta testing this summer. So it will eventually be provided to the broader community as a service, and really something that will be extended to global regulatory authorities around the world. So that, again, this is being made available to a broader community, and everyone can get access to this, but this curriculum will not stay static. One of the things that we saw from the WCOP feedback was that partnerships really around the world have unique contributions to make, and there's no really sacred cows with respect to adding more sophisticated content to this curriculum. And the FDA has been really wonderful in being able to recommend that this is shared in a global capacity. So I expect this will be a resource for anyone seeking to engage in this type of work. So I want to talk more specifically, and I'll really just cut this to the bare minimum because I don't want to take too much time here, is to talk about our Rare Disease Cures Accelerator data analytics platform. This is a newly launched platform that assembles a lot of data in the rare disease space. The data is a very, very diverse type. So this is everything from natural history data, completed clinical trials, EHR data, registry data, genomic data, digital data. We really accept everything. If a patient writes on a napkin, it's curated and made part of the platform. Now, I will say that one of the things that we feel very much a big part of the future of this is that we adopt the FAIR principles. So that's findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So this is really the tenet by which all this data is assembled. And a big departure from what was done in the past, in which data was provided to our coder platform, and then you had to interact with individual users who would do the curation and the coding behind the scenes, and then provide it upon request to the community. This is really one-stop shopping now. And the link that's provided on the top of this slide is where you gain access to this. So I encourage all of you listening to go take a look. You can get access to this. It's free, there's no charge for this. The big impetus behind the creation of the platform was FDA recognizing that there were issues with data quality and rare disease data submissions. And this was an opportunity to improve data quality, but also to engage the broader ecosystem to collaborate more clearly. A big component of the platform is not just that it assembles data, curates it, and integrates it, but it also has an R-Shiny platform that allows you to do very basic data visualizations, data summarizations, and data extractions, but also build more sophisticated tools. This is a build out that just kind of speaks to some of the different data types. Again, the big component of that is that it's findable. And what I will tell you, if you go up there and get access to it now, you'll see data in there. It's of a very diverse data type. What I'm showing you in this example is also data coming in from our partner in this, that's NORD, the National Organization for Rare Disorders. NORD, we partner with them. They provide a lot of patient level data. And we built an API that streamlines and efficiently ingests all of the data from the IMRare databases and makes it available into the RDC DAP platform. Again, regardless of type. So I'll get into the more details around the curation aspects behind the scene, but I did want to illustrate the fact that the future is really for this platform to be a conduit and be able to share data in both directions. The focus is that we will accommodate all diseases in this space. So for rare disease, that's 8,000 rare diseases. So this is certainly not a consortium. It's a project really for data sharing and really working with the heuristics that the data contributors provide. The dirty work behind the scenes is to work with the data generators and providers to develop the data use agreements, the data collaboration agreements, to get that out of the way, understand the data sharing requirements, and then operationalize that in the platform. Obviously, the implementation of the FAIR data principles is a key component of the service that we provide. Again, the goal here is to take different data types, different data qualities, and from very diverse data sources, and integrate them in as a useful manner as possible. There is a lot of, again, dirty work behind the scenes to manage the curation. The security is all in a cloud-based environment. Again, if you go up there, you'll get access to the system. They will verify who you are so that this is not a place where we have had any security issues, but it's still early days, and we're looking to obviously make this platform as secure and as efficient as it can be. One key component that I want to highlight is that the data analytics platform curation is responsive curation. So what do I mean by that? Now, this is a little bit of a busy slide, but I did want to point out the fact that, as I mentioned, we accept any data type, clinical trial data, natural history data, patient registry data, genomic data, either at the patient level themselves or from completed clinical trials. Now, the other thing, as I mentioned, is that some sponsors are a little leery about sharing their active treatment data, so they'll only share control data at the moment, but then there may be a time-based element where they make the data available. So we're really working with whatever the sponsor feels comfortable in doing. Now, below that, in the bottom left, is also the fact that not just working with the NOR data, but we're seeking to build additional APIs so that we're pulling in data from Vivli, from Allstrate, from RareX. So wherever the data can come into the platform, we're building tools to facilitate that. We will still handle the curation aspect of it behind the scenes and make sure that a common data model is adhered to. We're using OMOP because of the diversity of the data types and to accommodate a lot of data coming from registries and electronic medical records. The knowledge graphs behind the scenes are allowing us to have good efficiencies to map and to manage the ontologies and to handle some of the process by which the FAIR principles can be adhered to. Again, we do this in partnership with a lot of other organizations. our partner in this is the Iridia platform that does a lot of work with other academic centers. This is really a phenomenal partner. They're working with other partners such as Replica Analytics to build cohort builders that allow us to generate synthetic data. This is a big part of the future functionality that we're seeking to provide here. So it really should be down the road a one-stop shop and a collaboratory for really places where sponsors and industry partners, in addition to academic investigators, can work on solutions together. Individuals can create their own workspaces, so there's not a necessity that you expose everything. It is really an opportunity to collaborate. Our end game and our big deliverable here is to accelerate cures in the rare disease space. So you have to work with what data generators will give you in terms of their ability to share over time, but we can't really accommodate this. I mean, essentially, you're teaching people how to share and share over time, share at their comfort level, and providing the data in the most efficient manner when it's ready and able to be shared. So the benefits of this responsive curation is that obviously we're able to evolve things over time. The metadata can be published within a few weeks of receipt. So this is extremely efficient. And we're doing the data set description, the dictionary. So all the metadata tags are there really and makes it as efficiently available as possible. I would say this is really state of the art in terms of a platform that accommodates the broader picture here.
Dr. Barrett, that's great. I think I'm going to need you to summarize that we can also hear from Dr. Davis before we wrap up.
Yeah, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to leave the rest of these slides to the audience to go through the more detailed and complexities around data standards, but I'm happy to end here and turn it over to John.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. If folks have questions for Dr. Barrett, I'll have you put those in the chat box, and maybe Jeff, you can respond to those as we move forward. And we're going to have some time for networking after this, so people can track you down in the chat rooms as well.
I'm sure they will.
Excellent. Let me share my